Nimal Siripala De Silva said that the case has been filed at the Colombo Commercial Court. The complainant is a company called Airline Trading 10 Limited of Ireland. Aeroflot Russia Airlines Moscow had been named as the first respondents. NC Abhivardhana Airport and Aviation, Sri Lanka Private Head of Air Navigation System has been named as the second respondent. The case has been filed naming the flight controller of the airport as the second respondent. This is not a case against the government. It is a case for violating commercial agreement between two private companies. The judge has informed the registrar to inform the flight controller over the telephone about the order. Is it correct to make us a stakeholder of this, he asked. Our lawyers went to courts on the next day to get an explanation about our responsibility. The controller has no power to retain or send a flight. The power is with the Civil Aviation Services Authority. We went to court and made lengthy presentations with the Attorney General, and thereafter the judge gave an order stating the ban does not affect the respondent. Therefore, we are free from this. We can allow the flight to depart. It was informed to Aeroflot company. If they make a request, the flight can be allowed to go. The Russian ambassador was informed about it, and the Russian ambassador did not make a request. I think it is because if they make a request against it, they could have been coming under the charge of contempt of court. There is a restraining order against the flight. Therefore, there is no fault from our side. We have taken all legal measures. When a court gives an order, first, it should be followed. Thereafter, if there are any shortcomings in the order, it should be rectified by going to court. Apart from that, there is no other way to get an order to change the legal system. We always respect the independence of the judiciary. There can be issues related to the decision, but we have no right to criticize it. I explained about the situation, the true situation, to the Russian ambassador 3 times, he said.
ඒ නිසා අපේ පැත්තෙන් කිසිදු වරදක් අපෙන් වෙලා නැහැ. අපි නීත්‍යානුකූලව මේ කාරණයට අවශ්‍ය වැඩ කටයුතු කරලා තියෙනවා. උසාවියකින් යම් නියෝගයක් දුන්නාම නීතියක් තියෙනවා. First comply and complain. පළමුව ඒ නියෝගයට අවනත වෙන්න ඕනි. ඊට පස්සේ නියෝගයේ දොසක් අඩුපාඩුවක් තියෙනවා නම් උසාවියටම ගිහිල්ලා පැමිණිලි කරලා ඒක වෙනස් කරගන්න. ඒ ඇරෙන්න අපිට වෙනත් ආකාරයකින් ඒ නියෝග වෙනස් කර ගැනීමට මේ ශිෂ්ට නීති ක්‍රමයක් තියෙන සමාජයක් තුල ඉඩ කඩක් නැහැ. මේකනේ අපේ යුරෝපීය රටවල් අන්තර්ජාතික සංවිධාන.
Issuing a statement, Foreign Affairs Ministry said that discussions are taking place at diplomatic level in connection with the retaining of the passenger flight. Foreign Minister said the final decision depends on the court procedures. Minister Harin Fernando said that this is a case filed against Aeroflot by the leasing company. Sri Lanka has no connection to this. There is no possibility of the Attorney General's department being part of it. However, we expect to go to the courts tomorrow to solve this at diplomatic issue. Attorney at Law Pratibha Mahanamahewa said that this is not a problem. It is a media organization that has made imaginations. It is a private legal issue but not an international problem. Judicial measures should be taken soon and to solve the problem. Russia was with us at all times at the proposal of the Human Rights Council. Flights have been sent to develop tourism industry. There is a misunderstanding. We can solve it by holding international level discussions. This is not a crisis between two countries. This is the problem between the airline company and the leasing company. It is important to take measures to develop tourism industry with Russia and other countries. Russia was a leading country in that regard, and we should be thankful to them. Passengers of the Russian flight sent back to their country today by a special flight that arrived from Russia. It is reported that 300 Russians left in that plane.
Now on the same story, issuing a letter to the Attorney General's Department, Ministry of Tourism and Lands has pointed out a Russian flight has been retained at the Katnaik International Airport according to a court decision. It has been pointed out that a case filed at the Colombo Commercial Court by an airline leasing company is the basis of this case. Although the case has been filed based on a commercial matter, the impact on the decision of the tourism industry is huge. It has been observed that a majority of tourists arriving in the country amidst the present crisis in the country are Russians. 60% of the foreign revenue of the country comes through tourism industry, textiles, exports and remittances of immigrant workers. The ministry has said all trade unions and organizations engaged in the tourism industry has made a huge pressure on it to intervene to get the problem solved. Independent Parliamentarians Forum says that amidst the present crisis situation in the country, action should be taken with other states cordially. MP Vimal Veeravansa of the forum mentioned this during a media briefing in Colombo. MP Vimal Veeravansa said that Russian flights also go to India. The island company could have done it from a court in India. The flight was stopped when it was about to depart. Shouldn't the impact of the trade of Sri Lanka considered? Shouldn't such factors be considered when such decisions are taken? Should have inquired from the Civil Aviation Services Authority. If the authority was consulted, it could have said that there is a written agreement not to inconvenience airlines. This incident has breached the agreement. The friendship between the two countries collapsed. It develops as a diplomatic crisis. Representatives of the company has not even been called. Such decisions will lead to humanitarian crisis apart from the prevailing economic crisis. People in the country in an economic crisis do not expect such a parliament executive or a judiciary.
Well, issuing of LAF's gas cylinders commenced today. Consumers said that the price of gas has been increased. Well, customers said that the 12.5 kilo LAF's gas cylinder has been increased to 6,850 and a 5 kilo domestic gas cylinder is 2,740 rupees. Our reporter said that there were long queues to purchase gas, but many have not been able to purchase gas. Long queues were seen to purchase LAF's gas. Customers at the Kasbah Jamuruli area were issued about 600 tokens by the workers. Meanwhile, Litro gas was not distributed today, but there were queues at various places. People in Bandarawala area were in queues for several days to purchase gas. People have tied gas cylinders to telephone and lampposts during using chains. Some individuals have been deployed for the protection of the cylinders. A discussion took place between officials of the Petroleum Corporation and Minister Kanchana Wijesekara. They discussed on the progress of 90 proposals received to provide petroleum products. Minister Wijesekara had issued a Twitter message stating that they expect to sign agreements with the proposals that are according to financial and technical guidelines. A discussion took place today between representatives of rubber and textile industries and Minister Kanchana Wijesekara. Issuing a Twitter message, the minister said that discussions took place with the relevant representatives on energy generation plans, fuel supply and the proposed tax of the Electricity Board, renewable energy plans and other requirements of the industries. Meanwhile, fuel queues were seen in many areas of the country today as well. People who came to purchase fuel close to the Galen Bindunueva Kakirawa Road near the filling station at Galen Bindunueva town. Well, the farmers who cultivated crops in the yellow season have been affected as the filling station has not been receiving diesel and kerosene for some days. The people have blocked the road as they have not been able to pump out water to their cultivations. A tense situation also arose at the place thereafter, and steps were taken to bring diesel and kerosene tanker with the intervention of the police. The farmers in Polonnaru district are facing difficulties without being able to engage in cultivations due to the fuel crisis. Issuing of fuel to farmers at Uva Paranagama Divisional Secretariat area is taking place from Valimada Cooperative Filling Station. The small and medium-scale paddy mill owners of Anuradhapura district have called a media briefing to inform about their problems. Minister Mahinda Amaraveera expressed his views bringing down fertilizer. The minister said that farmers have come forward to cultivate, which can bring a harvest to a certain extent. Measures will be taken to place orders to bring down rice by paying attention to the impending shortage. Additional crops should be cultivated. Certain activities are taking place to obstruct bringing down fertilizer. Fuel will be received in a few weeks' time. Fertilizer can be given to the paddy and additional crops after that. Meanwhile, the Private Bus Owners Association says that they have decided not to move out of the operating of buses. It was decided earlier by them not to run buses from tomorrow. Chairman of the association, Gamanu Vijayaratna, said 5,000 to 6,000 buses will be operated island-wide for 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that a structural change will be made from the 15 for the betterment of the transport sector. The minister expressed his views during a discussion yesterday on finding solutions to public transport issues. The discussion took place with the heads of the Transport Ministry and the relevant intellectuals. Discussions took place on the measures to be taken during a short period to find solutions to transport issues amidst the full crisis, inflation and cost of living. Decisions were taken regarding office, train and bus services, students' transport facilities and essential services. The minister instructed relevant officials to take steps to transport more passengers using less fuel to minimize the fuel crisis. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that the public transport should be strengthened to provide some relief to the people. Accordingly, it was decided to develop transport activities under several sectors from the 15th. Following are some of the decisions that were taken. More effective reinforcement of lane rules. Commencement of park and ride services at Kandawatha Makumura Katubedda multiple transport centres. Promoting the use of bicycles and introducing parallel roads for cyclists instead of lanes with more vehicular traffic. Commencement of new train services, including new office trains. Establishment of a full station in the Bastian Mawatha area reserved for buses. Additional compartments for the currently operating trains. Implementation of park and ride service in identified railway stations including Panadura and Ragama, providing new buses for the Sisus area for students and rural services. The minister pointed out that all measures should be taken to further develop public transport services. University teachers, officials of the Transport Ministry and a group of people attended the discussion.
Well, state officials say that everyone in the country should join the cultivation drive in the face of the present challenges. They mentioned this while joining in a special program under the theme Rata Dinavamu Kapakaru Govibim, organized by the Electronic Broadcasters Guild. Well, the program produced by National Television was broadcast over all media this morning. Secretary to the Ministry of Public Administration, MMPK Mayadune, said that the country can be built only through agriculture. Encouragement should be given to export crops. The whole country should be made a cultivation land. The country has an immense value, he said.
මේක අපි බංකොලොත් කියන්නේ අපිට මේ ඩොලර් ටිකේ බංකොලොත් කමක් තියෙන්නේ. අද ඒපෝ කඩදාසියක ලියුමක් ගත්තා රුපියල් 10ක්. මම දැන් ළඟදීම රාජ්‍ය සේවයේ ලියුම් 1,60,000ක් නවත්තනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ කෝටි 16ක් නවත්තනවා මම ලබන සතිය වෙනකොට. හැම කෙනෙකුටම මගේ විශ්වාසය ඩොලරයක් ඉතුරු කරන්න පුළුවන්. අපේ ජන ජීවිතේ වෙනස් බීම් සකස් කරලා තියෙන සියලුම ඉඩම් වගා.
Secretary to the Ministry of Agriculture, NBR Pushpakumar, said that even if all prepared lands are cultivated, only 357,000 to 360,000 acres can be cultivated. 50% of the lands are not being cultivated, which is a major issue. Varuna Madhavanarachi of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce said that vegetables can be cultivated to get the harvest in about 50 to 70 days. It is not relevant whether it is a private or state sector. If there's a food shortage, it'll be a serious situation, he said. Convener of Electronic Broadcasters Guild, Nuan Lienage, said that what could have happened to the country if only governments took action where there were disasters. Only governments cannot distribute relief, he said. All media institutions should take initiatives while engaged in media activities.
Now, in other stories, the Indian High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, says that full support of the Indian government will be given to solve problems in the local agricultural sector. This was disclosed during a meeting between the High Commissioner and the Minister Mahinda Amaravira recently. The meeting took place to express gratitude for the decision taken by the Indian government to provide fertilizer when Sri Lanka needed it most. Discussions took place on the 65,000 metric tons of urea fertilizer that will be given by the Indian government to Sri Lanka. High Commissioner Bagle said that the Indian Prime Minister has given approval to provide the fertilizer stock to Sri Lanka and it will reach the country soon. An agreement was reached to provide assistance to develop local livestock. The High Commissioner said that India is prepared to provide technical and trade support if sunflower cultivation is further developed, from which the farmers can get higher income. The University Teachers Collective to Protect Local Agriculture Industry presented a set of proposals yesterday to the Mahanayaka of the Malwatu chapter, the most venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Thera. The Mahanayaka Thera said that the cultivation programs have been launched at all temples to meet future food requirements. An organic fertilizer production project has been launched at the Valimada Ulugala area in the Badulla district. The project is implemented on the advice and supervision of the National Fertilizer Secretariat, Agriculture Department and the Ministry of Agriculture. 600 jobs have been generated through the project. Steps have been taken to prepare more than 10,000 hectares of paddy fields of Yala season in the Kurunegala district. Deputy Commissioner of the Agrarian Services Development Department, Dushani Veeravansha, said that 18% of solid fertilizer and 43% of liquid organic fertilizer have been distributed. Farmers at Minneria Rotavava area of Polonnaruwa Hinguragoda area have cultivated vegetables to face a future food shortage.
The Ministry of Education says that the second phase of the first school term will commence tomorrow. Accordingly, all government schools and also government-approved private schools will commence tomorrow. And moving on with more local stories, a cricketing highlight that is to tell you that the Sri Lanka cricket team, which will play the first T20 match against Australia, practiced under lights, and the match is going to be played on Tuesday. The Sri Lanka cricket team is practicing for the forthcoming Australia series. The first T20 match will be played at the R. Premadasa Stadium on Tuesday. Only one T20 match is being played by the two teams earlier at this stadium. It was played in 2016. Australia won that match. 22 T20 matches were being played between the two countries and Australia has won 13. Sri Lanka has won 9. The Sri Lanka team is consistent of young players for this series. The national television will telecast live the matches in this series.
Now, today is the 58th day of the protest in front of the Presidential Secretariat at Golface Green. Groups of people who came last night engaged in protest, shouting slogans.
The Samagi Jana Balawege says that allowances given to low-income recipients affected by the increase of taxes MP Iran Vikramaratne mentioned this during a media briefing at the opposition leader's office. MP Iran Vikramaratne said that inflation has increased from 46.6% to 57% from last month to this month. Money cannot be printed because the inflation will increase again. Although price of foods increase, the income does not increase. The relief needed by the low-income recipients should be given, he said.
The 43rd Brigade says that fisheries community should follow new methodologies to uplift the fisheries sector amidst the fuel crisis. They disclosed these views during a media briefing in Colombo today. Former Vice Chairman of the National Fisheries Federation, Indranath Ranawaka, said that the fuel problem should be solved soon. It is important to continue with the fuel subsidy. Plans should be made to provide separate filling stations for the fishermen to get kerosene. A decision has been taken to break away from the traditional methods amidst the crisis.
Former MP Sunil Handunetti says that the program to be implemented under the leadership of the Jatika Janabalawege to overcome the crisis situation was not properly informed to the people. He mentioned this during a meeting at the Coroner seat yesterday. Former MP Sunil Handunetti said that they asked to form an interim cabinet with representation of all parties. A program to be conducted was handed over. The first task is that the president should resign immediately. According to constitutional provisions, the speaker will become the acting president. Thereafter, the interim cabinet will be appointed by the parliament. The next step is to meet the public needs by maintaining essential services. The people's confidence should be won to solve the crisis. First, the government trusted nationally and internationally is needed. A new government could be established following a general election after a temporary mechanism for 6 months.
Now, veteran actress Sumana Amarasinghe passed away at the age of 74 today. She acted in many films, including Sunetra, Sukirikella, Obai Mamai, Me Dasa Kumatada, Sudu Paravayo, Mihindum Sihina. She is the wife of the film director and veteran actor, the late Roy De Silva. She was born at Ranamana in Kandy. She won the Miss Mayalal beauty pageant, won the second place of the Lassanamuna competition organised by the Janatha newspaper and entered the cinema field. She acted first in Pipinakumudu film directed by Rumi Dimel. She produced several films.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Professor G.L. Peris, had discussions with the Ambassador of China in Sri Lanka, Kiu Jingong, at the ministry recently. During the meeting, Ambassador Jingong briefed the assistance provided to Sri Lanka and discussed matters pertaining to bilateral engagements and current developments in the country. While appreciating the generous assistance and support extended by China, particularly during the current situation, the Foreign Minister requested continued support of the government of China to mitigate the economic challenges in Sri Lanka. Both parties appreciated the multifaceted relations and the close friendship between the two countries. Well, it's time to take a short break and we'll be back soon with international stories.
හොඳම දේ විශ්වාසයෙන් ට්‍රීට් කරන්න. Prima Treats. Life is a treat.
Welcome back to the news and moving on to news overseas. Mayhem in Bangladesh, that's our top story in the international segment. A fire and a huge explosion have killed at least 49 people and injured hundreds more at a storage depot near the city of Chittagong in Bangladesh. Hundreds of people had arrived to tackle the fire when a number of shipping containers exploded at the site at Sitakunda. Well, it is thought that chemicals were stored in some of the containers. Industrial fires are common in Bangladesh and are often blamed on poor safety regulations. Many of the injured are said to be in a critical condition, and the number of people killed is expected to rise. Hospitals in the area are overwhelmed with crowds of people waiting in hallways for treatment. Medics have appealed for blood donations, and military clinics are helping to treat the injured. As they try to extinguish the blaze, a huge explosion rocked the site, engulfing many of the rescuers in flames and throwing debris and people into the air. At least 5 firefighters were killed in the blast and several more were injured. Many people are still missing, including journalists who were reporting on the fire before the explosion. The blast was so large it was heard several kilometers away and shattered windows of nearby buildings. One local shopkeeper told Reuters that the piece of debris had flown half a kilometer and landed on his pond. He described seeing fireballs falling like rain after the explosion.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres renewed his call for an immediate halt to violence on the 100th day of the war in Ukraine. The UN chief also called for an urgent protection for civilians, unfettered access to provide them with humanitarian aid and safely evacuate those trapped in areas where fighting is taking place, and respect for human rights. The conflict has already taken thousands of lives, caused untold destruction, displaced millions of people, resulted in unacceptable violations of human rights, and is inflaming a three-dimensional global crisis that is plummeting the most vulnerable people, countries and economies, the UN Secretary-General Guterres said in a statement. Russian forces continue to storm in Luhansk region, controlling eastern part of the city, as foreign media reports indicated that parts of the Azot chemical plant were damaged in yesterday's attack.
And moving into Pakistan, a huge fire broke out at the Children's Hospital in Lahore's Gulberg area in Pakistan yesterday. Well, the fire erupted in the pharmacy storage on the third floor, where medicines worth millions of rupees were burned to ashes. No loss of life has been reported so far in the incident during the rescue operation. The hospital building has been evacuated. According to the fire department, at least 7 fire engines have been dispatched to put out the fire. Meanwhile, additional fire engines have been summoned from across the city to help put out the fire. Welcome back, and we're moving on to the sports news. Well, all tickets for the first and second T20 matches between Sri Lanka and Australia have been sold out yesterday. Well, tickets for the third T20 at the Pallakali International Stadium can be purchased from the 8th. The series between Sri Lanka and Australia includes 3 T20 matches, 5 one-day internationals and 2 test matches. The first and second T20 matches are scheduled to be played at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo on 7th and 8th. The third T20 match will be played on the 11th at Pallakali International Stadium. The tickets for the T20 and ODI series were issued from yesterday. Tickets for the first and second T20 matches were sold out by last afternoon. The tickets issued from Colombo for the third T20 match have also been sold out. However, tickets for the match at Pallakali International Stadium can be purchased from the stadium. Sri Lanka Cricket said tickets for the test matches can be purchased from the Galle Stadium from the 26th. Apart from that, tickets can be purchased online from www.srilankacricket.lk website. Sri Lanka Cricket says that the tickets will not be issued from the relevant stadiums on the days where the matches are being played. National Television is the official broadcaster of the series. So make sure that you buy your tickets early.
I was going to ask you whether you got yours.
Yes, with that note, we end the news, and together with Sharon, this is Clifford wishing you a good night. Enjoy the rest of the programs. Take care.